For over 3,000 years, no ship had crossed the boundary of the quarantine zone. It was an empty, silent region of space marked by ancient warning satellites, their red beacons flashing a slow and steady rhythm. No entry, they broadcasted in over 1,000 galactic languages. Few ever approached. Fewer still remembered why. The truth was buried deep in old council records. The quarantine zone was Earth's prison. Humanity had once reached into the stars, but too fast, too violently. They brought war to peaceful systems, destroyed entire colonies in their race to conquer. In response, the Galactic Council had acted swiftly. Earth was locked away, isolated from the galaxy. The decision was final. No contact, no second chances. But now, something had changed. On the outer rim of the Varellos sector, a small Qin-operated surveillance outpost named Relay Station K-7 detected something strange. At first, it was dismissed, just background noise. But the signal grew stronger, repeating itself in rhythmic pulses. Patterns. Coordinates. A language. Inside the control room, a Qin officer named Relna clicked her mandibles in surprise as she stared at her console. Her skin, a pale blue-green, flushed with sudden alarm. She leaned closer. "Commander," she said, her voice tight with confusion, "I'm picking up an unauthorized signal. Origin, quarantine zone. It's structured. Artificial." Commander Torcan, a tall reptilian with thick armor-like scales, stepped over. His slitted eyes scanned the data. The waveform was clean. Too clean. "Is it a ship?" he asked. "No," Relna said. "It's a formation of ships. At least 12. Possibly more. Their energy signatures are unlike anything in the Council database. But what?" Torcan growled. Relna hesitated. "The signal's encryption. It resembles old Earth code. Pre-isolation era." Torcan stiffened. "Alert the High Council. Now." Within minutes, the report traveled through subspace relays and reached the central planet of Kelira, the home of the Galactic Council. The city stretched across the planet's surface like veins of light, its spires reaching into low orbit, connected by bridges of energy and glass. It was here that decisions about peace, war, and interstellar law were made. The Council's emergency session was called immediately. Representatives from 12 species gathered in the Grand Spire, a chamber lit by holographic starlight and echoing with the quiet hum of translator notes. At the head of the assembly stood Chancellor Virex Thale of the Ralthari. His face was long and pale, his eyes like dark pools of ink. Virex had served on the Council for over 100 years. Calm, calculating, and powerful, he had long opposed any contact with Earth. Now, his voice filled the chamber with quiet rage. "We sealed that sector for a reason," he said coldly. Humanity was chaos given form. They nearly tore apart entire systems with their wars and technology. Their species was reckless, aggressive, unpredictable. Minister Solari of the Ladhari, a glowing energy being, floated forward. "That was long ago," she said gently. "They may have changed." Virex narrowed his eyes. "Or they've simply grown more dangerous in the dark." A low chime rang through the chamber. The hologram in the center flickered to life. Static cleared, revealing a man standing on the bridge of a sleek, unfamiliar ship. He wore a black uniform trimmed in silver. The symbol on his chest was unmistakable, a stylized Earth inside a star. "I am Captain Alex Carter of the Terran Vanguard Fleet," the man said. His voice was steady, calm. "We come in peace. We seek audience with the Galactic Council. Humanity is no longer what we were. We ask only for a chance to speak." The chamber fell into stunned silence. A human, speaking Galactic Standard, standing on a ship that looked nothing like the old Earth vessels recorded before the quarantine. Virex's face darkened. Cut the signal. But the message had already broadcasted across Council channels. News outlets picked it up within minutes. Across star systems, the message was replayed again and again. The impossible had happened. Humans were back. In the corridors of the Council, fear spread like fire. Some argued for immediate attack. Others urged caution. Many were simply shocked that humans had survived, let alone advanced. The fleet was real. The signal was real. The danger was real. Virex stood at the center of it all, trying to hold the line. "We cannot allow them to move freely," he said. "We must send a clear message. The quarantine remains." But it was too late for silence. After hours of heated debate, a decision was reached. A compromise. Captain Carter would be allowed to meet with the Council, under strict observation, in a neutral zone. No military action would be taken unless provoked. Carter's message was answered. A reply was sent. He was granted safe passage to the neutral diplomatic station Seraphis Point. In his command ship, Carter received the transmission. He nodded once, quietly. "Set course for Seraphis Point," he said, and informed the crew. "The time has come." His fleet moved slowly beyond the quarantine boundary. The stars ahead were bright. Behind them, the Earth was still hidden, but no longer alone. In the shadows of the galaxy, ancient memory stirred. Fear returned. Hope ignited. And in the heart of the Andromeda Union, the balance had shifted. The humans had stepped back into the light. Captain Alex Carter stood at the large observation window of the TNS Horizon, the lead ship of the Terran Vanguard fleet. Stars drifted across the black canvas of space, but his focus was fixed ahead, on the bright, distant glow of Seraphis Point. The neutral station shimmered like a floating city, orbiting a gas giant near the edge of Council space. It was here that he would meet the leaders of the galaxy, beings who had once locked humanity behind invisible walls, never to be seen again. Behind him, Commander Rhea Lang approached. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and second in command of the fleet. "We've received final approach clearance," she said. "Docking Corridor 5. They're watching us very closely." Carter gave a small nod. "Let them watch. That's why we came out in the open." The horizon slowed as it approached the massive station. Dozens of other ships, some diplomatic, some military, hovered nearby. Each one belonged to a different species. Some sleek and curved like flowing glass, others blocky and metallic, covered in weapons. The humans had entered a crowded theater, and every eye was on them. Carter moved through the ship with quiet confidence. He wore a dark formal uniform, simple and modern. No decorations, no medals. Just the Earth insignia on his chest. He entered the airlock where an escort team waited, for security officers and a protocol droid programmed in over 200 languages. As the docking clamps secured the ship, the airlock hissed open. The welcome party from the Galactic Council stood waiting. The lead figure was a tall, slender alien wrapped in glowing bands of silk-like fabric. Two silver eyes blinked slowly beneath a translucent veil. "I am Envoy Terran of the Valari," it said in smooth, echoing tones. "You are Captain Alex Carter?" "I am," Carter replied. "Follow us. The Council expects you." No threats. No weapons drawn. But the silence said more than words. This was not a warm welcome. It was a test. Carter and his team followed through the wide corridors of Seraphis Point. The station was massive, built to host any species in comfort. Gravity zones shifted. Atmospheres adjusted. Strange languages buzzed from speakers, translating everything in real time. As they walked, Carter saw them, delegates from a dozen worlds. Some looked human. Others were towering, tentacled, floating, or insect-like. Many simply stared. A few turned away. Fear, curiosity, suspicion. The humans had become legends, and not good ones. Finally, they arrived at the Grand Chamber. It was a circular room, with tiered seating rising like an arena. Holographic stars hovered above, slowly rotating. In the center was a single platform, meant for the speaker. Carter stepped forward alone. Around him, council members took their places. Chancellor Virexthale sat on the uppermost tier, his hands folded, his face unreadable. Beside him sat Minister Solari, glowing faintly. Across the chamber were others, each species with their own history, their own fears. A low chime echoed through the room. Carter raised his head and spoke, clearly and calmly. "I am Captain Alex Carter of Earth. I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a representative of a changed people. For generations, humanity lived in isolation. We remembered why. We remembered the wars, the chaos, the mistakes." He paused, letting the silence settle. "But we also changed. We grew. We united. We learned to listen. We did not return to challenge your laws. We returned to ask for a seat at the table. We do not come with weapons. We come with knowledge, with technology, and with the will to be part of this galaxy, peacefully." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Virex stood. "You speak well, human," he said. "But words are wind. We remember your kind. You were violent, arrogant, dangerous. What proof do we have that you're anything different now?" Carter met his gaze without blinking. "You will have it. I asked for observation for dialogue. Not trust, yet, but a chance." The Chancellor narrowed his eyes. "A chance can be a mistake." Minister Solari leaned forward. "We will vote. Until then, you are to remain on Seraphis Point. Monitored. Restricted. You will be given access to neutral archives and allowed to send limited transmissions to Earth. But you may not leave the station." Carter nodded once. "Understood." The session ended. Slowly, The council members stood and filed out. Some looked thoughtful. Others looked uneasy. Only Virex kept his glare locked on Carter until the very end. Back in the corridor, Rhea Lang approached. "How did it go?" she asked quietly. "We're not at war yet," Carter said. "That's a start." Later, in a private chamber, Chancellor Virex activated a hidden communication link. "Deploy the Shadow Agent," he said. "Let's see how peaceful these humans truly are." Far from Seraphis Point, in the shadow of a forgotten moon, a Black Ops ship detached from a silent dock. Its mission was clear: create chaos. Blame the humans. Make the Council afraid again. And far above them all, the stars kept watching, quiet, distant, and endless. Captain Alex Carter stood before the massive viewing window inside Seraphis Point's diplomatic wing. The swirling blue gas giant below looked peaceful, but Carter knew that peace in this place was thin as glass. Behind him, the door slid open. Commander Rhea Lang stepped in, her expression serious. "They've started the debates," she said. "The council chambers are sealed, but chatter's already spreading across the station. Some want to give us a trial period. Others, not so generous." Carter nodded, his arms crossed behind his back. "It's no surprise. We knew this wouldn't be easy." "They're scared," Alex, Rhea said. "Most of them were taught stories about what humans used to be. Raiders. Warmakers. Worlds burned in our name. That's hard to forget." "I don't want them to forget," Carter replied. "I want them to see who we are now. The past is part of the truth. So is what we've become." Down below, on the main floor of the station, news feeds from across the galaxy played the same headline. "Human fleet requests Galactic Council recognition. Dangerous gamble or new era?" Reporters from dozens of species speculated openly. Scientists were curious. Military analysts were cautious. Religious leaders from distant worlds called it prophecy, others called it disaster. And watching it all with sharp, calculating eyes was Chancellor Virex Thale. He stood in his private suite, hands folded behind his back. A translucent screen floated in front of him, displaying the latest security feeds from Seraphis Point. Captain Carter's movements, meetings, conversations, everything was being monitored. Virex spoke quietly into a secure channel. "Is the agent in position?" "Yes, Chancellor," a voice answered through static. "The Terran ship will be targeted within the hour." "No fatalities," Virex said coldly. "We need a spark, not a massacre. Make it look like human sabotage. The Council must see them as dangerous again." Elsewhere, on the far side of the station, a cargo drone moved through a restricted corridor near Docking Bay 12. It paused beside a Terran supply pod, scanned it, and attached a small, almost invisible device to the hull. Then it vanished into the crowd. Back in the Terran embassy quarters, Carter met with representatives from neutral species who had agreed to dialogue. The Varlari, the Zeltran, and a few open-minded members of the Council had quietly approached. They asked simple but pointed questions. What caused your species to unify? How do we know your fleet isn't just a shield for hidden weapons? Why now? Carter answered each question directly, his tone honest and firm. He spoke of Earth's transformation, the rebuilding after centuries of division, the effort to create a unified planetary government, and the slow, disciplined journey back to space. He offered data, records, transparent logs. But it wasn't enough for everyone. Later that night, the alarm blared across Seraphis Point. Explosion detected in Docking Bay 12. Emergency lockdown in effect. All personnel remain in place. Carter and Rhea rushed to the command center. Smoke poured from the damaged corridor, emergency bots already working to seal off the area. Flames flickered behind shattered walls. No lives lost, but the damage was clear. A security officer, a drave and with dark plates of armor, turned to Carter. "We have footage. It looks like the blast came from one of your supply pods." Carter's face tightened. "That's impossible. Evidence says otherwise," the Draven said. "We've isolated a Terran signal. It matches your ship's code." Moments later, the news spread like fire. Explosion at Seraphis Point. Human sabotage suspected. Inside the council chambers, Virex wasted no time. "There it is," he shouted, pointing at the replayed footage. "Proof. They have not changed. Their nature is still violent. They smile in your faces and plant bombs behind your backs." Some council members nodded, anger rising. Others looked uncertain. Solari stood slowly. "We should not judge based on one incident," she said. "Let the investigation finish. Accusations without proof are dangerous." Virex hissed. "You would wait while they plan their next move? You would risk your worlds on their promises." Back in the Terran quarters, Carter watched the footage closely. He zoomed in on the supposed evidence, then paused. There, he said. That drone. It doesn't belong to our system. Rhea leaned over. You're right. That's council grade. But how did it access our pod? Carter looked at her. Because someone wants to frame us. They began compiling the data, movement logs, access points, heat signatures. It would take time. And time was something they were quickly running out of. That night, Carter sent a direct message to the council. The truth is being twisted. We are being framed. I request a formal investigation, open to neutral observers. We will share every system log. We have nothing to hide. The message was sent. All they could do now is wait. Across Seraphis Point, eyes turned toward the humans with fresh suspicion. Whispers spread. Fear thickened. Lines were being drawn, and in the shadows, Virex smiled. He didn't need war. He just needed doubt. The air inside Seraphis Point had changed. It was subtle, but Captain Alex Carter could feel it. The looks from other delegates were colder. Conversations paused when he entered a room. Where there had once been curiosity and cautious interest, now there was hesitation and fear. The explosion in Docking Bay 12 had done more than damage the structure. It had shaken the fragile hope of peace between Earth and the Galactic Council. And even though no lives were lost, the political damage was spreading fast. Inside the Terran suite, Carter sat before a large screen showing the latest council broadcast. Investigation continues after the explosion linked to a Terran supply unit. Human representatives deny responsibility, but evidence remains inconclusive. Several council members now question whether Earth should have been allowed to approach the quarantine boundary at all. Carter leaned back, silent. Across the room, Commander Rhea Lang entered, holding a data pad. We finished our review, she said. We traced the energy signature from the device. You were right. It's not Terran. It's Council military-grade tech. Obsolete, but still on record. She passed the pad to Carter. He scanned it. Who had access? Only high-level security. Whoever did this knew exactly how to make it point to us. Virex, Carter muttered. He's trying to corner us without firing a shot. He's doing a damn good job, Rhea said. Public support is turning against us. If the council votes now, we'll be labeled a threat. That's a path we can't come back from. Carter stood and walked to the window. Seraphis Point rotated gently beneath the stars. Earth was far, but not forgotten. He knew every eye on the station was watching him, waiting for him to lose control. We don't strike back, he said. We expose the truth. Meanwhile, deep in the lower levels of the station, someone else moved through the maintenance corridors unnoticed. The agent assigned by Chancellor Virex, silent, efficient, and masked, made their way toward a storage chamber linked to the security servers. They had another task: erase the remaining trace logs from the drone that planted the device. In the shadows, a hand reached out and stopped them. The agent turned, but too late. A stun charge struck their shoulder. They collapsed, twitching. A group of Council security forces stepped out of the dark, led by Officer Jalen Vesk of the Raltari Guard. He tapped his comlink. Target secured. Begin scan. The agent's identity was hidden beneath a cloaking mask, but the data spike they carried was traced, an encrypted signal leading back to a secure channel under Virex's authority. Vesk stared at the code. Looks like we just found our spark. Back in the council chambers, Virex stood once again before the members, his voice rising with each word. They're already dangerous. They speak of peace while they arm themselves. Their ships, those massive things, they are weapons first, diplomats second. And now, they plant explosives in neutral territory. Some members nodded, others shifted uncomfortably. Even if they didn't mean to strike, Virex continued, can we afford the risk? How many more incidents until we regret welcoming them? He turned to Minister Solari. Would you wager your planet's safety on their promises? Before she could answer, a beep echoed through the chamber. Vesk entered, holding a holographic device. Chancellor, he said, loud enough for all to hear. I apologize for interrupting, but we have new evidence regarding the explosion. Virex's eyes narrowed. What evidence? Vesk activated the device. A screen projected the intercepted transmission logs. A silent pause followed as the council watched. Transmission origin, Seraphis Maintenance Channel. Destination, classified, our Eltheri Security Network. Authorized by Chancellor Virex Thale. The chamber fell silent. What is this? Virex said sharply. Fabrication? Vesk answered, calm and clear. We captured a covert agent attempting to erase drone log data. The technology used in the sabotage matches old Raltheri intel equipment decommissioned but still stored in your sector's supply archives. Murmurs filled the room. Solari stood slowly. You manipulated us, Chancellor. I protected us, Virex snapped, from a threat that is still very real. You tried to ignite war, she said. But this council will not be ruled by fear. Virex turned to leave, but 2 guards stepped in his path. By council law, Vesk said, you are under investigation for unlawful covert operations, obstruction of diplomatic review, and endangering neutral territory. The Chancellor stood motionless. His face was stone. Then, finally, he raised his hands. So be it. But remember this, humans haven't changed. Not truly. You'll see. In the Terran quarters, Carter received the news. Virex had been suspended. The sabotage exposed. The investigation redirected. Commander Rhea let out a long breath. We've bought time. Carter nodded. Now we use it. He turned toward the terminal, opened a secure channel, and began drafting Earth's first official diplomatic proposal to the Galactic Council. Outside the station, his fleet waited silently, still just beyond the quarantine boundary. They hadn't moved. They hadn't fired. But now, for the first time, some in the galaxy began to wonder. Maybe the humans really had changed. The suspension of Chancellor Virex Thale sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For some, it was a sign that justice had prevailed. For others, it was a mistake, dangerous and reckless. Virex had many allies across the council, and they were not all silent. Captain Alex Carter sat in a briefing room inside Seraphis Point, his expression calm but focused. A large tactical screen displayed the most recent starship movements along the outer edges of council space. He watched in silence as a pattern formed, council ships, mostly from species loyal to Virex, gathering near the quarantine zone. Commander Rhea Lang entered quickly, carrying a data tablet. Movement along Sector 9, she said. 10 warships, all council registered. Not part of the official fleet. No communication. No orders. Unofficial strike group? Carter asked. Looks like it. We also intercepted a private transmission encrypted, but partially decoded. Message reads, containment must be enforced by action, not debate. Sounds like they're preparing to move with or without council approval. Carter rose from his chair. His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was clear. They're trying to finish what Virex started. But this time, they're coming openly. Hours later, aboard the Terran flagship Horizon, the command deck lit up with red alert indicators. Dozens of vessels appeared on long-range sensors. Carter stood at the center of the bridge, hands behind his back. Are our ships ready? He asked. All systems green, Rhea replied. Fleet has maintained position just outside the quarantine border. No weapons powered. Shields raised, but passive. We hold the line, Carter said. No engagement unless fired upon. I want every transmission recorded, every move logged. A junior officer turned from her console. Incoming message from the approaching fleet, sir. No council insignia. Just this statement. Turn back or be turned to dust. The tension in the room rose. All eyes turned to Carter. He didn't flinch. Send a reply, he said. Broadcast wide. All frequencies. He stepped closer to the comm terminal and spoke directly into the mic. This is Captain Alex Carter of the Terran Vanguard Fleet. We are operating under the terms of a diplomatic agreement with the Galactic Council. We have not crossed any boundary. We are armed for defense, not aggression. We do not seek conflict, but we will not retreat under threat. He paused. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The message was sent. Near the quarantine border, space became tense and quiet. On one side, the sleek Terran fleet floated in perfect formation, dozens of ships, still, silent, watching. On the other side, the rogue council faction ships moved into position. Their weapons were powered. Engines glowed bright. Each one locked targeting systems on the human vessels. Then they stopped. A single shot would spark a war that could consume systems. Everyone knew it. Inside the council chambers, the full assembly met in emergency session. Minister Solari stood at the center, facing dozens of anxious delegates. We are moments away from catastrophe, she said. A rogue group is preparing to engage a diplomatic fleet under council protection. If we allow this to happen, we prove to the galaxy that our laws mean nothing. But they're humans, argued one delegate. What if this is all a trick? What if they attack the moment we lower our guard? They haven't moved, Solari answered firmly. Even under threat, they remain still. That speaks louder than any weapon. A vote was called. This time, the outcome was clear. A direct order was sent to the rogue fleet. Stand down. Return to your sectors or face council enforcement. Some ships hesitated. Then one fired. A single pulse beam streaked across space, aimed at the horizon. It struck the Terran shield harmless, but loud enough to light every sensor. Carter remained still. "Shields holding," Rhea said, watching him. "Return fire?" a weapons officer asked. "No," Carter said. "Activate defense net. Target weapons only. Disable. No kills." The horizon moved like a dancer in the dark. Energy beams sliced through space, hitting the enemy vessels with surgical precision. One by one, weapon systems were taken offline. Engines shut down. No ships were destroyed. No lives were lost. The message was clear. The humans had power, but they also had control. Later, aboard Seraphis Point, the council gathered again. Carter stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by silence. The footage of the encounter played on a holographic loop behind him. He didn't speak until the room settled. "We came here to prove we had changed," he said. "And now you've seen it, not just in words, but in restraint. We defended ourselves without bloodshed. We respected your boundaries even when threatened." He stepped forward. "Earth is no longer the violent world you feared. We remember that past, but we've built something better. Let us prove it, not through war, but through unity." One by one, delegates stood. Some nodded. Some remained seated. But the silence that once followed Carter was gone. Now, he had their attention. And slowly, he was earning something rarer than fear. He was earning trust. The footage of the standoff played on news feeds across the galaxy. On the left, the Terran fleet, calm, precise, unmoving. On the right, rogue council ships, advancing, weapons charged, one firing the first shot. In between, silence, and then, humanity's careful, restrained response. No destruction. No retaliation. Only defense. For many, it was the proof they needed. For others, it only deepened the divide. But there was no denying it anymore. Humanity had shown something no one expected. Discipline. Inside the council spire on Kalyra, the full assembly reconvened. Delegates from every major civilization were present, their expressions serious. The air buzzed with tension, the weight of a galaxy's history pressing down on every word spoken. Captain Alex Carter stood once again in the center of the great chamber. He wore the same black Terran uniform, the silver insignia of Earth reflecting the dome's soft lights. This time, he was not alone in support. Minister Solari stood beside him. So did Officer Jalen Vesk, the same Rauthari who had arrested the rogue agent linked to Chancellor Virex. Their presence mattered. Symbolic. Powerful. Solari spoke first. "The rogue fleet's actions were not sanctioned by this council," she said clearly. Captain Carter and his fleet showed restraint. No casualties. No escalation. Their data logs have been verified. Every move was recorded. Every command accounted for. The chamber screens displayed raw video from the Terran ships, real-time sensor feeds, audio logs, command records. Everything matched what Carter had claimed. Then Vesk stepped forward. "We also completed our investigation into the sabotage at Seraphis Point," he said. "The planted device came from a Rauthari Black Ops cache decommissioned decades ago. We tracked the drone signal." The agent confessed. Chancellor Virex orchestrated the attack to frame the humans. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Carter remained still, letting the facts speak. This wasn't the moment to gloat. It was the moment to let the truth finish what trust had started. One of the older delegates, a gray-scaled being from the Tech Reunion, stood up. "We feared humanity's return would bring fire," he said. "But instead, it brought patience. You did not react in anger. You did not strike in revenge. That is not the humanity we remember." Another voice, this time from the Varlari representative, a crystalline life form with a glowing core. "You were tested, not just in diplomacy, but in restraint. You passed." Still, a few delegates remained uncertain. "What happens next?" one asked. "You asked for recognition, for inclusion. But how do we know this change will last? What if it's only temporary?" Carter finally stepped forward. "You don't know," he said honestly. "And I can't promise you certainty. No one can. But I can promise this. We will not hide from accountability. Our logs are open. Our ships are monitored. We've placed diplomatic observers aboard our command vessels, as agreed." He paused. "We are not here to erase our past. We're here to build a future." The room fell silent. Then, Minister Solari turned toward the central pillar where the council's main vote interface glowed. One by one, delegates stepped forward. Each pressed their hand, or appendage, against the panel. Green for approval. Red for rejection. The decision had to be unanimous for humanity's full recognition to pass. The chamber watched in tense silence. Green. 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 A long pause, then another green. Finally, the last delegate, a small, quiet figure from a distant world, hovered before the panel. He hesitated, then slowly placed a small, glowing digit against the pad. Green. The room erupted in soft chimes. A voice echoed through the hall. Proposal passed. Earth granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Terran delegates to be seated under observation for 5 standard cycles. Carter breathed, just once, deeply. It was done. Far away, in a hidden sector of space, Chancellor Virex Thale sat in exile aboard a drifting observation station. No crew. No visitors. Only a view of the stars and the quiet hum of failure. He watched the news feeds in silence. The council chamber. Carter's speech. The vote. Then he leaned forward and whispered to himself. They think it's over. But humanity has only just begun to rise. Peace is a mask. Sooner or later, they'll show their true face. He turned off the screen and stared out at the stars. Back on Seraphis Point, celebrations were quiet but sincere. Carter stood alone near the viewing deck, watching his fleet beyond the glass. The ships remained where they had always been, calm, still, waiting. Now, they had a future beyond the line. Commander Ria Lang joined him, holding a data pad. Official documents are signed. Earth has a seat at the table. Carter nodded. We earned it. Not with weapons. With patience. She smiled. Still, let's keep the weapons close. He returned the smile faintly. Always. Outside, the stars didn't look any different. But for the first time in thousands of years, one of those stars, small, blue, and once forgotten, had a voice among them. The Terran fleet crossed the boundary line for the first time in over 3,000 years. There were no weapons drawn, no alarms raised. The bright red warning buoys that once marked Earth's prison drifted silently as the ships passed by, their ancient lights flickering dimly. The barrier had held for so long that most believed it would never fall. But now, it was nothing more than a memory. On the bridge of the TNS horizon, Captain Alex Carter stood quietly as the stars of Council space opened before him. Behind him, the crew watched the navigation readouts. The moment was historic. No ceremony. No celebration. Just a calm, steady crossing into a new chapter. Commander Ria Lang stood at his side. Feels strange, she said softly. Crossing that line after all this time. Carter nodded. Because it's not just space we're crossing. It's history. Their ships, once symbols of isolation and suspicion, were now seen differently. The restraint they had shown during the sabotage and the standoff had earned respect, even from skeptics. The council still watched closely, but the vote had made one thing official. Humanity was no longer a shadow in the galaxy. It was a voice. The Terran delegation soon arrived on Kalyra, the capital world of the Galactic Council. Its golden towers gleamed in the light of twin suns, rising high into the clouds, with transparent walkways connecting them like bridges between stars. Hovercraft buzzed through the air. People of all shapes and species moved in harmony. The council had prepared a formal ceremony to welcome Earth's representatives. The gathering was not loud or grand, but it was deeply symbolic. For many delegates, it was the first time seeing a human in person. Captain Carter entered the council spire wearing the black and silver uniform he had worn throughout the negotiations. He was joined by 2 new Earth diplomats, chosen for their calm thinking and cultural understanding. They bowed respectfully before the assembly and took their place at the circular table, Earth's nameplate glowing softly before them. Minister Solari rose to speak. 3,000 years ago, this council made a decision to isolate a species. That decision was based on fear of destruction, of chaos, of history repeating itself. And for many years, that fear seemed justified. She turned slightly toward Carter. But change is real. It is earned, not given. Captain Carter and his people have shown that. Today, we welcome not just a planet, but the idea that growth is possible, even in the darkest corners of history. There was silence. Then quiet nods. The weight of the moment settled across the chamber like a slow sunrise. In the days that followed, Carter's work didn't slow. He spent hours in briefings, in meetings with alien diplomats, in joint sessions discussing trade, education, technology, and law. He made his case not by speaking loudly, but by listening, by asking questions instead of giving answers. And the galaxy noticed. Not all agreed. Some still doubted. But even among the cautious, a shift was taking place. The humans weren't here to dominate. They weren't here to fight. They were here to learn and contribute. Meanwhile, Earth itself watched the news with awe. For centuries, humans had looked up at the stars with wonder and fear. Now, they had a place among them. Cities erupted in quiet celebration. Schools taught new history. And for the first time in a long time, humanity felt part of something greater than itself. Far away, in a remote system, Chancellor Virexthale remained in exile. He sat within a dark observatory, watching the stars through massive glass panels. His reflection stared back at him, older now, bitter, alone. He watched Earth's delegation speak. He heard their words, but he didn't believe them. They fooled them all, he whispered. They've buried their hunger beneath diplomacy. But hunger doesn't die. It waits. His eyes narrowed. The galaxy may accept them, but I will not. With a wave of his hand, the screen shut off. His exile was quiet for now. Back on Kalyra, Carter stood once more at the edge of the council plaza. The sun was setting, casting soft orange light across the white stones. He looked up at the sky, where thousands of stars blinked down. Behind him, Rhea Lang approached. You think we'll ever fully belong? She asked. Carter smiled, just a little. I think we already do. Not because they let us in, but because we chose not to be who we were. She nodded. It's a good start. He turned to face the heart of the galaxy, alive, vast, unpredictable. There's still work to do, he said. And he meant it. But this time, they wouldn't be doing it alone.